Hey folks, welcome back. Organizational Behavior, Griffin and Phillips, 14th edition. We are doing chapter 15 today, Organizational Culture. Second to last chapter. Let's go. Learning Outcomes. After studying this chapter, you should be able to describe the meaning, importance, and origins of organizational culture, discuss cultures of conflict and cultures of inclusion, discuss how technology and innovation affect organizational culture, and describe how effective organizations manage their culture. 15.1, the meaning and determinants of organizational culture. Okay, let's start with our definition. Organizational culture is a system of shared values, norms, and assumptions that guide members' attitudes and behaviors. So sometimes culture is compared to like the water that fish swim in. It's everything, it's everywhere around us. Sometimes it's so much around us that we don't even know it's there. Cultural values, often taken for granted, implicit. They just the way things are, right? Well, why should a marriage be between a man and a woman and not between two men or two women? Well, I mean, it's just the way it is, right? It's culture. That's just the way it's been done, you know? I'm not actually saying that's true, but that's an example. Taught to new members as they are socialized in the group. This does not mean explicit. This can be taught through actions, through examples, through a disapproving look, right? So parents do this with their children. Children do something that's socially inappropriate. The parents might scold them. They might just look at them funny, etc. They take a long time to evolve and a long time to change, hence the state of the world. They can enhance organizational performance. Of course, they can also reduce organizational performance if it's a bad culture. Cultural themes include ethics, innovation, diversity and inclusion, casual, formal, and collaboration. Right? So these are all different aspects of culture. Is there a culture of cheating people or treating customers fairly? Is there a culture of innovation, or is there a culture of just sort of keeping things going? Is there a culture of diversity and inclusion, or do we fight against those things? Is the culture more formal, or is it more casual and laid back? Is it collaborative? Is it individualistic? Of course, there's more than just those things, but those are some aspects. So what is culture made of? Culture is made of various things, some of them physical, some of them non-physical. So the first element of culture is artifact, which is a physical manifestation of the culture, including an open office, an award, a ceremony, a formal list of values, right? So if you have a business, an office space where everything is open, that creates a different cultural environment than one in which everyone has separate individual offices. Espoused values and norms, the preferred values and norms explicitly stated by the organization. So what is in the mission statement? What do the top level managers and the lower level managers, what types of things are they talking about? Then there's what people are actually doing, the enacted values and norms that employees exhibit based on their observations of what actually goes on in the organization. And then there is assumption, those organizational values that have become so taken for granted over time that they become the core of the company's culture. All right, 15.1 is a figure here for levels of culture, just kind of showing how these things essentially all interact with each other. Okay. Does culture matter? Culture boosts organizational performance when it is strategically relevant, when it is strong, when it emphasizes innovation and change to adapt to a changing environment. It can be a source of competitive disadvantage. Strong versus weak cultures. Strong cultures clarify appropriate behavior, are widely shared, and are internally consistent. Strong cultures are not always better than weak cultures. They must be positive, not negative. So if you have a positive culture, that's great if it's strong. If you have a negative culture, you'd prefer the culture to be weak than strong, right? So you could have a weak negative, a weak positive, strong negative, and a strong positive. So How leaders create and maintain culture. This varies by industry and national identity/society. Culture is influenced by company founders and leaders. Culture is shaped early on and then reinforced by philosophy, values, visions, and goals. Cultural choices influence company structure, compensation system, customer relations, and human resource policies, individual behavior, and motivation. All these items reinforce culture. Culture may need to change due to changes in strategy, technology, or organizational structure. Culture may vary across different areas of the organization. Okay. So, sort of a truism that, culture starts at the top, the way the CEO or the, you know, uh, president or whatever title that person has, he or she has, the way they treat the people around them, the sort of goals they set for the organization. All these things are sort of fundamental in creating a culture. And every day, culture is either maintained or it is changed, right? So it really it's hard to even describe how, because it's literally everything all the people at the top of the organization say and do is how they create and maintain culture. This point is that different parts of the organization may have different cultures, different departments, different regions, etc. How leaders influence culture. They develop a clear sense of mission and values. They select employees who share and reinforce those values, right? So who's getting promoted? Are the people who are the most unethical but bring in the most money being promoted, or the people who are the most ethical being promoted? Use daily routines and behaviors to demonstrate appropriate values and beliefs. Consistent role model behaviors that reinforce the culture. Make HR management procedures consistent and communicate priorities through reward. That's essentially putting your money where your mouth is, as they say. And nurture traditions and rituals that express, define, and reinforce culture. These could be awards given out. These could be announcements made on a weekly basis. Could be a monthly retreat or a quarterly retreat or an annual retreat that everyone goes on. Could be awards given. So many different things. 15.2, cultures of conflict and cultures of inclusion. Conflict culture, shared norms for managing conflict. Active conflict management norms resolve conflict openly. Passive conflict management norms avoid addressing conflict. Agreeable conflict management norms resolve conflict in a cooperative manner. Disagreeable is resolve conflict competitively. So obviously we want to be in this active and agreeable sort of categories rather than the passive and disagreeable categories. Cultures for managing conflict. Here we have our 4 quadrants, and they've just labeled the intersection of those. So active and disagreeable would be dominating, active and agreeable, collaborative, disagreeable and passive, passive aggressive, agreeable and passive avoidant. So these are all not awesome. This is obviously where we want to be when addressing conflict. Culture of inclusion is defined as the extent to which majority members value efforts to increase minority representation, whether the qualifications and abilities of minorities are questioned, and whether. So a company or an organization has a culture of inclusion if the dominant group, whether the dominant group is Black or white or Mexican or Chinese or whatever it might be, values and tries to include minorities in it. Pro-diversity cultures are related to lower turnover and reduced absenteeism, 2 of our key things we're trying to do with this whole field. 15.3, effects of technology and innovation on culture. Using intranets to build and maintain culture. Intranet is a network within the organization. The issue is not just about using the latest technology, but about leveraging the right technologies for creating and maintaining a positive culture. Intranets both reflect and influence culture by their scope, their openness to employee feedback and contributions, how frequently they are updated, the number of intranets, the use of symbols and stories and ceremonies. So the more connection, the more ways people are connected, symbols, stories, ceremonies, just the amount of contact face to face, the more strong a culture is going to be. Building and maintaining culture with remote employees. This is a new challenge. Little or no face-to-face time among virtual employees makes it harder to reinforce cultural values. Acclimating remote employees to a corporate culture can be challenging. Organizational culture needs to enable and embrace virtual work by facilitating video calls, ensure that remote workers are monitored and coached and feel connected to the company and coworkers. Innovation and culture. Innovation, the process of creating and doing new things that are introduced into the marketplace as products, processes, or services. Radical innovation. Disruptive innovation is a major breakthrough that changes or creates whole industries. Systems innovation creates new functionality by assembling parts in new ways. And incremental innovation continues technical improvement and extends the applications of radical and systems innovations. So innovation is not something that just sort of happens randomly. Innovation is something that is a product of a certain type of culture. And if an organization wants to be innovative, they have to, plan for that. They have to strategize for that. They have to make that a priority. New ventures require entrepreneurship and good management. Intrapreneurship is entrepreneurial activity that takes place within the context of a large organization. Corporate research is the most common means of developing innovation in a traditional organization, also known as research and development. All right. 15.4, managing organizational culture. Taking advantage of the existing culture, it is easier to alter behaviors within the culture in place than to change the history, traditions, and values already in place. Managers must first be fully aware of the culture's values and what behaviors or actions those values support. Articulating organizational values can be useful in managing others' behaviors. So, sort of, if you're trying to change culture, having a good idea of what it is and sort of having that skill of sort of maybe nudging things in a certain direction. Because it's a challenge to sort of change things. So taking advantage of the foundation that's there and modifying it rather than sort of starting from scratch. Teach the organizational culture. Socialization is the process through which individuals become social beings. So children go through that at home and at school. Organizational socialization is the process through which employees learn about the firm's culture and pass their knowledge and understanding on to others. Learning through observation of experienced employees, formal training, corporate statements about organizational culture. Changing the organizational culture. Managing symbols. Culture is understood and communicated through stories and symbols. Difficulty of change. Culture can be difficult to change when upper management inadvertently reverts to old behaviors. Stability of change. New values and beliefs must be seen as stable and as influential as old ones. Changing value systems require enormous effort because value systems tend to be self-reinforcing. Okay, and that brings us to the end of organizational culture. All right, just one more chapter to go, and I'll see you all next time.